2 years ago now, I was at a trivia nerd gathering in Los Angeles. I happened to be in my clergy garb, and someone pulled up a chair next to me and said, "So, you're a real priest." I didn't know what a fake one would look like. Although on Halloween, friends of mine report that everyone loves their priest costume. It's real. He asked if I was a real priest. I said, "Yeah, I'm absolutely a real priest. You didn't just get your thing on the internet." "No, I've got a certificate on my wall that says I'm a priest." So like a real priest, yes, I baptize, I can marry, I'm really good against vampires and demons. Communication arises. Yes, a real priest. And it had me wondering, what would make for a real priest? I mean, I'm not capable of what Jesus accomplishes today. I can feed a number of people with a lot of donations from you and the help of a very astute altar guild. I can feed all of you with the food offered from this altar, but I can't feed 5,000 people. And that makes me wonder what kind of Christian I am. Because I am a church nerd in addition to a church. I've been educated in a certain kind of Christianity, enough to be responsible for it for others, but what would Christianity really look like? What would a real Christian do? Because I think we get Christian formation backwards a lot of the time. I know when I form people for baptism and confirmation, I want to give them kind of a crash course in what it is that they're dealing with here. So they know what they're getting into. And so we talk about the Bible, and then there's a little bit of theology, and then the rite that they're going to participate in, and then church, what kind of ministry they're going to participate in. Bible, church. Bible, theology, church. And then you're ready. That's not the education the disciples got, because those things didn't exist. These are a bunch of illiterate fishermen. I've got a diploma on my wall that says I'm a Christian. There's a disconnect there. I think what we should do is, instead of teaching ourselves and one another Bible, theology, and church, and then hoping we live lives of discipleship and service, we should probably put the discipleship first. We should learn what it means to feed, fight, and forgive. And let Bible, theology, and church take care of themselves. I have fed people. I am not a very good cook, but I can do it. I participate in bake sales with the brownies that Aunt Joan taught me how to make. I bring a serving, or I go buy food and bring it to potlucks. But that's servings. Jesus fed 5,000 people at a pop. Our church thinks in servings. It should think in pounds and tons. 2 weeks ago, my son was at part of a Kids Give Back summer camp. They just did little service projects here and there over the course of the whole week. And at one point, I was asked to cook 5 pounds of pasta so that they could combine it with 5 pounds of pasta from other volunteers and make potatoes and make pasta salad for a whole number of folks that they were making lunches for. They made lunches, care packages, letters to veterans. Over the course of a week, they worked with dozens of nonprofits and charities doing good work in the world. And I thought about what it took in my little kitchen to make 5 pounds of pasta. I sat in front of that boiling water for quite some time. We think in servings. I fed 4 or 5, 6, 8 people. Depending on how thin I cut the brownies. What would it mean if organized religion were actually organized? If the first thing you did was like in The Godfather, pay attention, you're going to learn how to make sauce, because someday you might have to cook for 30 people. What if the first thing we did for deacons was deaconing? Serving 30 to 100 to 500 to 5,000 people. What if that was the first thing you learned? How to bring people into a group and feed them, provide for them, share with them. We come to church to eat. What would church look like if we were geared around what it meant to feed? What if that was the first skill you learned? Charity. What if I didn't teach you Bible, Old Testament, New Testament? I didn't work you through the perichoretic nature of the Trinity before crossing my fingers and hoping that you would share that with someone else? What if we started with pounds of macaroni and cheese? I spent time at camp and I told them, you have as much to learn from the dining hall as you do from me. And in the course of feeding people, they're going to call you stupid. They're going to say that you're feeding people who are just going to need to come back in and be fed tomorrow. They're going to tell you you're feeding the wrong people. They're going to tell you you're feeding them the wrong food. People will always come down to beat down something good happening in the world. And that means you are going to have to learn how to fight. Now, I don't mean a new brand of Christian Kung Fu. Although All Saints Camp was divided into 3 camps. It's a camp that absorbed all of the different camps that were introduced in about 5-10 years ago. There's athletic arts, there's music and theater arts, and then there's visual arts. And they go off and do their elective and they do their thing. So I don't mean Christian Kung Fu because every time athletic arts would introduce themselves, they kick into the sports. I don't mean fighting in the hallways or fighting in church breezeways. I don't mean fighting at vestry meetings. I mean the struggle for what it means to accomplish the goal of feeding. We are bringing the kingdom to people. And there are going to be forces, powers, systems, people that will oppose that. Do Christians, by and large, know what it means to have individual and collective goals, struggle for them, accomplish them, defend that feeding, and then keep going? I know that I have a diploma on my wall that says I know a lot. But given the fact that I live in a different part of the county, I know the supervisor for this county, for this part of the county, but I don't know mine. At one point I knew how to lobby Congress, or at least send the right kind of letters that would get through, how to make the right phone calls that would get through. But I can't name my representative. I don't know who to contact. I'm a terrible citizen. What if we got together and before I got to, this is what confirmation looks like, we were confirmed in our individual and collective goals, our solidarity with one another, with and for the people we tend to serve. I don't care where you land politically. Do you know how to fight for your conscience? I don't, and I've got a diploma in whatever this is. Feed. And fight. Those were the skills that Jesus taught. Let them come to me. You feed them, he says. And they go, we don't know how to do what you're talking about with what we've got. And Jesus says, I'll make up the difference. Just do this. We learn the theology in the course of our service. We don't learn the theology and go, okay, make that jump from the way things are to the way things ought to be. We should train the skills, and the theology will come. Or at least we'll have need of it. We're going to get burned out. Fighting the good fight is hard. Feeding people at scale is hard. And it's people doing the work. We're going to screw up. We're going to fail because we're trying. There's a certain self-fulfilling prophecy about that. You often fail because you're fearing failure. And then you fail and you go, see, that's why I don't try at all. But we're going to screw up. And Jesus gave us a whole pattern for what you do when you screw up. Our tradition gives you a pattern for what to do when you screw up. It involves actual apologies and actual forgiveness. We don't know how to apologize, probably because we don't practice. The most common avoidance of apology is explaining yourself and saying that you didn't intend to hurt someone. Oh, I didn't mean it. That doesn't do anything about the hurt, any more than I'm sorry if you were offended does anything about the offense. Remember, impact, not intention. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I hurt you. I didn't mean it, but that doesn't matter. What matters is I'm going to do my best to make sure it never happens again. And if there's anything I can do to make it up to you, let me know. And this is what it looks like on the other end. Whether or not you meant it, it did hurt. Thank you for your apology. But given the importance of what we're doing together, this feeding and fighting you and I are both doing, you and I can figure this out. I forgive you. We don't practice that. And I've said this before. I know we don't practice that because when I arrive at churches and I see the fault lines and the hurt and the history coming forward, you don't even have to scratch the surface very hard. It comes out. Bodies bear the hurt. So you lean over and you nudge somebody and you go, what's going on here? And they go, Kevin, this goes back like 20 years. How can an institution that preaches forgiveness hold on to things for decades? I know you've been hurt. And whatever happened, whether or not they meant it, on behalf of people who look like and dress like me and have certificates on their walls like mine, I'm sorry. And I'm going to do my best to make sure it doesn't happen again. And I hope you can forgive us. We feed, we fight, and we forgive. Because every Sunday we come in here and we say, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. It's time we practice that. We feed, we fight, and we forgive. That's Christianity 101. A former parishioner of mine was always upset that we were only scratching the surface of the Bible. We were only reading the same theologians. And I have to hear the same instructed Eucharist illustrating the same clever points all the time. And I said, even trained athletes train in the fundamentals. It's important to educate one another in Bible and theology and church. But what if we flip that on its head? What really is Christianity 101? Is it the graduate level education I received in the apostolic succession and the proper hand movements that happen up here or not? With how I dress? What hymnody is more appropriate for certain types of worship? Etc., etc. All the things that we base our consumer religious decisions on. But what if Christianity 101 wasn't Bible, theology, and church? What if it was what it meant to feed and fight and forgive God who made them possible? Because you might discover God reading the Bible in a year. You might discover God reading academic theologians. And you might discover God in the Book of Common Prayer. But I know you'll find Jesus when you feed God's people. I know you'll see Christ when you fight for what's right. And I know you will see the face of your God when you forgive and are forgiven by your neighbors. They will call you stupid. They will call you crazy. They will call you weak. But there's nothing stupid about feeding hungry people. It's kind of what they need. I think it's pretty smart. They'll call you crazy for fighting for the wrong people. But there's nothing crazy about doing the right thing. And there's nothing weak about forgiving and being forgiven. Because that's what love happens. I don't know if I'm a real priest. I got a certificate on my wall that says it. But as much as I pray to be a real, honest God priest who can make holy water and fight demons, I hope I'm a real Christian first.